So on the charging cable and microphone repair, this is the cable down here, and there's a couple of things that actually connect to the microphone. This you'll obviously want to fix if you go to charge the phone and it doesn't register. Down here it can get dirty. You can damage the pins in there. So if it doesn't charge at all, if the home key doesn't respond, or your microphone doesn't work, maybe you're talking to somebody and they can't hear you at all, that could either be dirty or your actual mic could be bad. The other thing that this controls or is a part of is the ringtone or loudspeaker. And if you can't hear any music at all, it may be these little contacts right there, those two little metal contacts actually touch the contacts on the ringtone module. If all of those things aren't working, your home key doesn't work, the mic doesn't work, the phone doesn't charge, or you can't hear any music, then it's probably unplugged. So just make sure that this cable is plugged in all the way. What happens sometimes, you can drop the phone and this can come unplugged and then none of those things work. So check all those. If none of those are working, it's probably just unplugged. Let me show you on the close-up here the actual parts of the cable. So we have that plug right there. It's a little locking plug, and that's for the home key. So what we'll do is we'll lift that up, and we'll just get in here and be very careful, and we'll slide that out. Then the other thing we need to do is get this antenna, or this microphone, excuse me, and this rubber microphone cover has a little piece that will actually slide into this kind of this funnel that channels your voice into the mic. So you want to make sure you slide that mic cover out, and I'll try to show you here a little better what it kind of looks like. So that's it right there. And then we have two screws down here at the bottom that hold this connector in place. So we have a screw right here and a screw right there. So you want to make sure that we remove these two screws, that this home key cable is unplugged and out, and then that this mic cover is out. And once we take these two screws out, we'll be able just to lift this, minding the adhesive under this cable, and we'll be able to lift this this whole cable out. So just get our screwdriver here, and we'll remove the one and the second one, set those aside, and then I'll usually just grab the cable kind of like that and just lift it. And as you start to lift it, it should wiggle loose. And once you get it, being careful of the other cables, you should just be able to pull it up and out. Now the one thing that we want to transfer, there's actually two things we're going to transfer. We're going to transfer this mic cover, and that actually is adhered onto the mic itself with a little bit of adhesive on the back side. So you want to make sure when you're pulling that off that you don't rip it. So just be careful. And then the other thing we're going to transfer is this spacer on top. And the mic, or the cables, and you'll notice with pretty much every single cable, is that the one has a spacer, the other one doesn't. So when you go to plug the new cable in, you want to make sure the spacer's on there, because if you either drop the phone or it gets jarred, it can unplug these plugs, and then you run into the problem of maybe nothing works down there. The home key doesn't work, the phone doesn't charge, and that's because this spacer more than likely is not on. Now, the one thing we said that we would test, kind of like on the loudspeaker or ringtone, is the dust cover itself. Now this one's a little harder to get to on this side because of that little funnel right there. So what we'll test it on, or try to clean it up on, is this side, just to make sure that the dust and any dirt or anything inside of there isn't preventing the microphone from working. So if you've cleaned that and the mic still isn't working, then we'll change everything over and we'll go ahead and test it. So what we'll do first is we'll remove the adhesive off the bottom down here. So we have this piece, and then we have this piece actually on the mic itself right there. And then there should be a piece over this right here and one right here. So we remove all the backing off of the adhesive on that, and we'll just set it down face up, or with the adhesive side up, so we don't compromise the adhesive right now. And then we'll gently lift this cover off. Now again, be careful that you don't damage this, because it's pretty easy to tear these if you're kind of rough with them. So just be careful with that, and we'll slide it on the new microphone. Now what you want to be aware of is which way you're putting it on, because when the mic goes into place, you want to make sure that it goes that way. If you put it on the other way, it obviously won't work. So if you get it that way, then you know you're right. And then we'll start to replace the cable. So the one thing that you want to be careful of is when you're putting it in, that you mine this flex cable for the home key. You want to make sure that your charging cable goes underneath of this cable. So I'll usually just kind of hold it on the side right here, and I'll start just by kind of sliding it at an angle and underneath of that flex cable. And then once we get it in, you can hold it kind of at a 45-degree angle. See if that goes. And as you're holding it, just line the holes up with the charging cable and the pieces on the actual frame where the screws will go into. And once you get that all lined up, you want to check the cable underneath through the charging port, just to make sure that it is lined up properly, and that either the port's not sticking up or it's not sitting too low, and it's side to side, it's even, because that's the last thing you want to try to get it in and then it doesn't line up properly. So once we get that in, I'll secure the two put the two screws in to secure the cable to the frame. And then I'll insert the mic cover into that little funnel piece. Get that lined up right. And this piece out here, let me show you on the close-up. Is that you want to make sure that this is sitting nice and flush, and we'll have to go over just a little bit, but you notice how it'll kind of bend that cable right there? See that little bend in the cable right there? You want that cable to bend into that slot, and then this is going to sit right there. So make everything line up nice and neat. So once we get that, we can then slide our home key cable into the port. Now the one thing you want to make sure is that this lever is still up. If that lever was locked down, or anything when you were putting the new cable in, you want to make sure the lever's up, or this cable won't slide into the little bracket right there. So we'll show you again on the close-up here. Once that cable's in there, nice and even, you can lock this lever down, and it should secure everything in there. The other thing you want to do is just make sure that that cable slides right into that little opening right there. It'll kind of tuck it away so when you put the retaining bracket in there, it'll keep everything nice and even. So we'll go back to the main shot. And now everything's lined up properly. You notice the mic's in there. Home key flex cable looks good. The screws are in. This is sitting nice. The only thing left to do, you put the module back in, assemble the phone, and test it. But that should take care of your charging issues or your microphone issues.